What's going on, Player Profiler Nation? It's Matty Kiwoom. I am joined by my host, OG, Mr. Theo Gremminger. This is the latest episode of the Futurecast, and we got a very, very special guest here today. If you haven't already noticed, from the hat, it's our guy from FTN, Jeremy Popielarz. I told you could roast me if I mess up 30 seconds less. Popielarz. I told him he could let me have it. You can let me have it because it just 15 seconds ago.
Yeah, I'm a nice person. Follow me on Twitter, you know. I don't really get too angry from that. It's all right. You could give me a different name. I don't care. I'll answer.
No doubt about that.
Yeah, but I'm pleasure to be here.
Yeah, I'm really stoked for tonight. I've had a chance to have like a deep Dynasty dive with Jeremy before. We've interacted on Twitter for a long time. He's a great follow. Shout out to using your last name and as your Twitter handle, as the OG Fantasy. I shout out to using Popes in there. Puts Popes FFH at Twitter, correct, Jeremy?
Correct.
Yeah, so definitely a follow. This time of year, you're dropping really, really good threads on your guys. We're really, really excited to chop it up and to get a chance to do a Superflex mock draft. This is our, I believe, fourth we've dropped, but the second of the new year, first Superflex of the new year. So the last one we did was with Cody Carpenter, who's really sharp. You're sharp, so we want to see kind of where we're at in this process. It's a really exciting year for Superflex. We have 3 locked in QBs towards the top. We have 2 Teflon wide receivers, possibly a third if Odunze gets that top 10 draft capital. We've got a dynasty roster changing tight end. With Brock Bowers. So it's a really fun one. But one guy that we are all in lockstep on at the running back position is Brayan Allen. Jeremy, you have him as your RB1 overall in this class. I do as well. So does Matty Kiwoom. And Cody Carpenter's there as well. Why don't you elaborate on Brayan Allen? What are the traits that you like about him and why you see him at the top of the class?
So what I like about Brayan Allen is really like the size. 6'2", 235. He's kind of that big lumbering style type of runner. I wouldn't say that he's that explosive type of necessarily runner. The advanced metrics aren't really there either. When you really look at and break it down from PFF, I chart most of not chart it for them, but I have keep a chart that I make myself of what they have. But Brayan Allen's 0.24 in missed tackles forced. Per carry in his collegiate career, and he's only got 0.13 rushes of 10 yards or more per attempt. And if you sort those through the last, 4 classes that I have here, he's near the bottom. So if you're going to look at stats and you're going to kind of just pull numbers like that, Brayan Allen isn't really the guy for you. But if you really turn on the tape and watch Brayan Allen, you see stuff that you can really like. 2023 wasn't great. It was a different offense for him. He also battled some injuries. It's kind of been the case of his collegiate career. He's kind of always been nicked up, really, which is a little bit of a concern headed in. But this is a weaker running back class, and I just really like what he offers as far as the speed. It's been reported that he has run into that 4.4-4.5-ish type of range at that size in the past. So I don't know if he's going to get there, truthfully, because this year he didn't look like he's going to run that fast. But if he does get there, I just really like the size, the complement of where he's going to be. Just that power, physical running back that can also take it to the house. He also has good hands. The numbers aren't there, but if you watch some of the catches he makes on film, he has pretty good hands too.
Yeah, and for a guy of his age and reputation, for him to get what was it about 28, 29 catches this year and step up the stat, the production there, that was really it's something great to see. And then to pivot over to the wide receiver position, this is a guy that Matty has talked about, and Matty's going to get a chance to see him down the Senior Bowl, Jacob Cowing. You're high on Jacob Cowing, as are we. First of all, Jeremy, how many times are we going to hear Jeremy Cowing and Tank Dell in the same sentence this offseason? It's going to probably make us want to throw up at some point, but he is that next like smaller wide receiver that can, step right into the slot and maybe be a little bit more than that. Your thoughts of Cowing and how you expect him to do down in Mobile?
So the easiest stat when you're really looking stats, if you're going to jump off of that film, is yards per route run. We kind of, I think, as a dynasty and a fantasy community in general, can say that's a pretty predictive stat. There's been enough information out there that's a good one to go off of. And when we pull out their career stats for this class, Jacob Cowing's 4th overall. Harrison leads, Nabers is 2, Franklin is 3, and Jacob Cowing's 4th at 2.55. And then that's similar to, Jalen Tolbert's in there, which isn't great. But Kadarius Toney, Justin Jefferson was around that, Jamison Williams. So you have some good names mixed in there. For your example, you pulled Tank Dell. He was at 2.57. So very similar as far as their yards per route run go. I would say that Dell's more shifty. I think Dell was a little bit shiftier. He can kind of make a guy get lost quickly with that shifty and quickness. I think Cowing's a little more fluid, a little bit slower as far as his breaks go. He really leans you see a lot of his, it's not necessarily a full-on whip route, but he likes to go out. He kind of gives you a couple steps to the outside and then cuts back in. He does that very well, but he's not necessarily going to lose you the way Tank Dell can, just because Tank Dell's acceleration is a little bit better than Cowing's, in my opinion. But I do really like what Cowing offers on tape. I did see today, actually, the Senior Bowl posted some of what teams they were going to be on, and it is verified. Cowing came in at 5'8", so he's 11 he was listed at. So now you're really talking back into that Tank Dell type of territory. So I do have some worry that Tank Dell, it's are you going to get Tank Dell, who was pretty exciting early on, did get injured, or are you going to get I would say Isaiah McKenzie? I could be worried he's a little bit Isaiah McKenzie. But I do like what he offers. He's a good hand catcher, runs decent routes. It's not overly physical and not overly elusive. Does have some concentration type of drops on tape as well. So there's goods and bads. I'm not going to be overly high on him. I guess it would kind of come down to where I see once he's drafted and wherever the consensus falls in. But at the moment, I feel like I'm a little bit higher than other people on him. But yeah, I also think that once you get past 5, it's kind of an open point of kind of what you prefer as far as your receivers go.
I had him at 22 overall in my single QB ranks. I dropped the article on PlayerProfiler.com, but then it's Matty. I look at the guys behind Jacob Cowing, and I get a little worried because I love Cowing, and we have to love what he did on the way out, where a lot of guys sat out the bowl games. Instead, he plays against Oklahoma and rips them up, goes for 150 yards and 2 touchdowns. But I just look at some of the guys behind him. There's in my own rankings, I've got Polk and Corley. Mm-hmm. And all these dudes, and I'm not a Jermaine Burton guy, but I think Burton's going to go, potentially ahead of him in the NFL draft. So there's a bunch of guys. Where are you at, Matty? I know you're bullish like I am. Are we too enthusiastic right now?
No, I think it's okay to be excited about it, but I gotta say, Jeremy, you said that was verified. The size and weight, the height and weight. Is that
according to what?
They posted,
that was
right?
A little bit of an assumption. I'm not going to lie, but it has a V next to it. Normally, when they have a V next to them, that usually means verified.
Right.
Because there were other ones that were E's that are
guys.
Estimated. You know what I mean? So some were just blank. It just said 5110. Some said 5080 V, and then some said 6020 E. So
right.
I am making a little bit of an assumption, but normally that V means verified.
I mean, this is this would be the beginning of the panic fest for Jacob Cowing, because he's listed on the PFF at 5'11", 175. Mm-hmm. And I thought he actually played a little bit bigger than 175. And I looked at his tape, and then when I see 5'8", 157 on their post, it's possibly a panic for me. It would cause me to panic, because that's, like you said, Jeremy, he would have to be 99 percentile of what Tank Dell is for us to get any type of return on investment early on from him. And that's just a tough bet to make. And Theo, you bring up a good case for his fallout, truthfully, because I got him right now wide receiver 12. It's tough to comp him. I'm gonna have to see what he looks like on the field in Mobile, because 5'7", 157 is concerning. But behind him, guys like Roman Wilson for me. You mentioned a couple of them, Theo. Malik Washington, Devin Baker. I would hate to see Cowling slip, but I don't know if I'm willing to bank. I bet on Tank Dell last year. I don't know if I'm going to bank on that profile scoring 2 times in a row, given the production, because Tank Dell, let's not forget, was the nation's leading receiver. Back-to-back years, over 1,500 receiving yards. He was a mega producer at Houston. So we'll see what Cowing, what he puts on the field this week or next weekend, because that'll be step one and see what his draft value looks like for me.
Well, guys,
and if they measure him there,
exactly,
then you really know for sure.
We want all that. Get it all done in a Mobile.
Well, we're gonna see. Sometimes you tell the greatest truths when you're OTC, and we're all about to be OTC. We're gonna do a 2-round Superflex mock draft. This is gonna be a lot of fun, guys, and we're gonna be interested to see where Jeremy has a couple of these quarterbacks after we get past the Jayden Daniels tier. So stick with us here at Futurecast. We'll be right back.
It has been 2 years since Josh Larkey paved the way for fantasy gamers to start expecting positive returns from pick'em games, specifically Underdog pick'ems. And how do you do it? Well, you look at a slate and you find a great shootout or a sneaky shootout. You also look for a shit show game. 3, 4, 5, 6 guys in one game. That's right. You can do it. You can do it. And you can 100x your payout on Underdog. Think about week 1. Jets-Bills was a shit show. Did we see the Aaron Rodgers injury coming? No, but we knew the Jets have a good defense. We knew the Bills have a good defense. Why not expect the worst? And the worst is what we got. So if you had gone Dalvin Cook less than, Garrett Wilson less than, Aaron Rodgers less than, Josh Allen less than, Gabriel Davis less than, boom, 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 you can go 6 for 6. Same thing in week 2. Week 2. Sneaky shootout there in Philadelphia. Minnesota's going to be in comeback mode, so we'll go Cousins, Jefferson, Hawkinson, more than. Madison, less than. But also, Swift, more than. Boom, 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 boom. That's how you do it with the Underdog Pick'ems, and you use promo code Underworld to get a 100% instant deposit match up to $100. You put in $100, Underdog matches that deposit up to $100 with promo code Underworld. Go start picking.
We are back here, the Futurecast, and we are about to dive right in to a pretty big draft, I would say, right there. This is our first Superflex mock of the entire year of 2024. So let's get right into it. I actually gave myself the number 1 pick. It's not because I know
it's home cooking.
There's a little bit of strategy behind this, because I wanted to make sure Jeremy, our guest, he's got a great process, and this is a little behind the scenes for all of our people checking us out today. I was following Jeremy on Twitter before I knew he was going to be on the show. That's how good he is. That's how good of an analyst he is.
I appreciate that.
And I got him at 3rd. So I think 3 is going to be a pivotal point in a lot of our planning going into the rookie draft. So I'll get it started, and I'll make this quick. I'm not going to fret. I'm not getting scared. I am taking Caleb Williams with the 101. I am not falling for this prospect fatigue that is happening on a kid that we've been more than excited to draft here at the 101 for multiple years. He checks the boxes, top 10 in passing yards. He had 30 touchdowns, only 5 picks. He is the prospect we have all been waiting for. Now, where does he go? I don't think I'm as nervous as I think a lot of people are in terms of going to the Bears or even the Washington Commanders at the top of the draft. There are weapons there. There's some good restructuring happening in both of those franchises. So give me Caleb Williams, baby.
No-brainer pick. And 102, Matty, not sure what you were trying to do to Jeremy, but we're going to find out which quarterback he prefers as his QB2, because I'm going to push Marvin Harrison Jr. up and take him at the 102. I think that this is a strategy that you can take into your Superflex rookie drafts. I think that this is going to be positional specific, But at the end of the day, I think the consensus is going to be Marvin Harrison Jr. just because he's going to continue to gain steam as the process moves along and more people get super, super excited about him. I'm fine taking him at the 102. And I think that there's an argument that you could take him at the 101. I'm probably going Caleb Williams, but if I was set at the quarterback position and I didn't want to like trade back, I might just take Marvin Harrison Jr. on my Dynasty Superflex rosters and just set it and forget it.
Can't argue that. Jeremy, do you have a comp for Marvin Harrison? What's your people, because everyone gets lofty, obviously, with the best wide receiver prospect they've ever seen. What's your comp for him? Just off the top.
I haven't really, to be honest, I haven't dove deeply into Marvin Harrison because, I kind of know where he's going to be ranked just because of watching everything. I mean, you're probably getting, the CD Lamb-y style-ish, maybe.
I got a comp.
What's your comp, Theo?
A way more yoked up, stronger AJ Green.
Dude, that's a good one.
Yeah,
I actually,
he's
the thing is, he's not that much bigger than AJ Green.
Yeah, but he's the bench press numbers are wild though. Like Marvin Harrison Jr.
Right, he's going to be strong.
Yeah, he was setting really, really high reps at Ohio State as a young player. He'd probably, if he decides to test at the combine, which nobody does the bench anymore from the wide receiver spot, Harrison Jr. would set it from the class, and he's going to be. I think his athletic measurables might be better than AJ Green ever were, but he's just Marvin Harrison Jr. is just awesome. It's hard to make a comparison to him. It's really hard to make a comp for him.
Yeah, I'm currently doing the prospect profiles, we're talking with stuff that I do. I do them over at FTN with the scouting reports, and I like to have 3 players in there just because it gives you kind of that idea of here's who kind of a low end, a mid-level, and kind of okay, this is the ceiling. But yeah, Harrison Jr. is a hard one still. I still kind of want to look at it. I feel I don't know. It's tough because I try to comp them to players who are already in the league. It makes it a little easier for people to kind of
for sure
assess that. But I'm still really kind of torn. I like a CD Lamb-ish is kind of where I'm sitting. They're similar, a little bit undersized as far as their weight goes. Harrison's a little taller. Yeah, that's probably where I'll sit for right now.
Okay.
at the end of the day, we're all excited for the prospect. I was just wondering to kind of see what you saw this game style, because it's all over the place right now. So with Harrison, I think we're all just where you're at, Jeremy, was we know we're getting a stud. Who cares who he kind of looks like? We're just excited for the guy. But I'm excited now. You have the 103. Do you go Drake Maye? Do you dare?
I do. I think there's a fair argument to even people saying that gap between Drake Maye and Caleb Williams is closer than people want it to be. Drake May's got a little bit more size to his game. I think he's a little bit less maybe refined, you could argue. Maybe just has a little bit more maturing to kind of do, but he's more that on schedule type of quarterback. He's kind of what you expect out of a quarterback. He's going to kind of sit in the pocket, gives you that dual threat mobility, but is a little bit less off schedule than Caleb Williams. Still can play off schedule. So I'm a little less worried. I also think that he might fall into a better situation. I'm really hoping that it falls out that Caleb goes to Chicago and that Drake Maye ends up in Washington. I'd really love him in Washington. I think that's a really good fit. Kind of just a better type of Kirk Cousins or Taylor Heineke or even that Sam Howell, the former UNC guy as well. Just a little bit better kind of polished type of quarterback than what they've had in the past, but similar in their own right, that it should walk right into that type of system, and he's going to already do well. Obviously, you've got Jahan Dotson there. You've got Terry McLaurin. Cole Turner's kind of coming up the tight end position, but Logan Thomas is still there. So there's some options there, and I really like Drake Maye at the quarterback position. There's a point that I had these guys really, really, really close. So,
and I'll add this, guys, because I jumped in a redraft best ball yesterday, and Drake Maye might be the best value right now at the quarterback position. There are a lot of these rookies are great values in right now in early startups values. They'll gain a lot of edge. If you do an early startup like this at this point in the process, the rookies are always great values because people have fear of the unknown. But in early best ball, Drake Maye and Jayden Daniels are both really, really good values, especially Maye. Like, he could easily step in next year and at the end of the day be a top 15 quarterback in redraft. I think he's going to be extremely productive. And I think the sneaky rushing upside with the right coordinator really like insulates him to have a really nice rookie year. So I think that's the correct pick, Jeremy. You can make the argument for Daniels, but Maye is super safe and super exciting.
Maye going to the Washington Commanders is a sneaky good spot for the personnel reasons and what they're doing with their franchise. They brought in the hotshot team builder. They're interviewing all the right people for the head coaching position. It could be a really good spot for Drake Maye. And two other reasons why Drake Maye, people should not get any type of prospect fatigue on this kid is he's got two things that Josh Allen has, which I think is the size and the cowboy. He's got that cowboy in him where you watch his tape. He's jumping over people. He's trying to make plays happen, throwing off his back foot. He's got unlimited upside, and you pair that with some weapons and a good offensive base that Washington's trying to build. Maye could sneakily be a lot closer to Williams than we realize. So I'm with you there, Jeremy. Great pick at the 103. Gotta love how that falls to you. I also love Malik Nabers here at the 104. I would potentially go with my Jayden Daniels here. If the team if the landing spot, but with Nabers, I feel kind of like what Theo is with Marvin Harrison. I think he's a good floor here. He checks all the boxes for me. Target share, yak, missed tackles force, yards per out run. All of those are in the top 10 in the country. I think he's going to land on a good team, and he's just going to be a stud from jump. So I make Jayden Daniels is going to be very, very, very enticing here, I'd say, at the 104, but I'm going to go with Malik Nabers.
I just got turned down at a trade offer in a single QB Dynasty League earlier tonight. I offered somebody DK Metcalf and the 111 to try to move up for Nabers in that 102, and it was like the rejection without a counter type deal. I think people kind of get what Nabers is right now, and the steam is going nuts for him. That's a great pick, but you made my pick so easy here. 105 here, it's Jayden Daniels. I think you can consider him as high as the 103 right now in Superflex. Immense fantasy potential. If you want to talk about who's going to be a better NFL quarterback, you can make an argument for Drake Maye, but in a fantasy, with the rushing upside that Daniels has with over 2,000 rushing yards the last 2 years, he led all college quarterbacks in fantasy points per game last year, Heisman Trophy winner. Jayden Daniels here is a great value at the 105 in Superflex.
Sure is.
Is there any worry that it's a 1-year wonder?
Sure, but I think that's it's baked in a little bit here when you take him at like the 105, which is like maybe the argument against pushing him up to the 104 ahead of Nabers, because Nabers I think is just like almost, we can all kind of say almost like a can't miss type guy, a profile we would bet on big time, and a guy that we expect to be very quickly I think a wide receiver 1 in Dynasty.
Mm-hmm.
But Daniel,
and I think you get that like the safe rushing floor. It's kind of the Anthony Richardson effect of you're going to have that, which is, fantasy gold when you really break down quarterbacks. You don't even have to be that good. We've seen it so many years in and out that NFL wise, they're not good, but you get that rushing upside really helps in fantasy. So I get it.
No, Konami, baby.
All right, Jeremy, where are you at the 106 here? Usually this has come down to between two guys, so this is going to be an interesting one.
So I realized doing this, I'm very kind of bullish on this player. But I'm going to take Odunze here.
Love it.
I actually have him as my wide receiver 2 now. It's kind of a toss-up between him and Nabers for me. I like Nabers. I actually did Nabers film breakdown earlier than I usually start at the back end and come towards the front when I do these, because normally the front class is not really going to change a ton when you really watch them. But I had questions about Nabers. I do like Nabers as a prospect. I just feel like at LSU he wasn't asked to do a whole lot. I'm getting a little bit of that, Jalen Hyatt type of vibes from him, that he leaned on his speed a little bit. He can run routes a little bit better than Hyatt did. But I really like what Odunze brings, depending on where he lands. If he lands in that right spot, he feels more polished than Nabers to me. I don't think his upside is there. I think if Nabers really hits, Nabers' upside's like, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase likely. But Odunze really feels like a Keenan Allen. Like I've seen him mock to the Chargers, like kind of that guy that's going to be able to be a PPR machine. He's tough. He's physical. He tracks the ball well. He kind of can stretch the field. He has that speed. He blocks well. He kind of just does everything for the Huskies. So I really like Odunze. Obviously, it's going to land on that spot. I've seen a couple mocks where he's kind of in that, Chargers or Giants area. And I like those. If he does end up in that area, just kind of becomes that guy. If he lands with the Giants, like he's the guy in that offense. So I really like that for Odunze. So for me, this is a value for him at 1.6.
Can't be mad about him. I'm actually working on my mock 2.0 for the NFL draft, and I spoiler alert, I have him going 10 to the Jets, and that would be
that would change a lot.
It would be,
We don't want that.
Yeah, that would change a lot.
yeah, that's right. I think that's the range in which we're looking here. So we'll depends on how that shakes out. But I'm here at the 107, and I am taking Brock Bowers at 107.
I think we could also get all three of the wide receivers in the top 6 overall of the NFL draft. I think that's in the range of possibilities too. So
it depends on how many quarterbacks go. We'll see what kind of run go. If Marvin Harrison goes before the Cardinals, I think we could see all 3 go before the top 6.
So Jeremy's in upstate New York. I'm on Long Island, New York. And like, there's all these media reports now that the Giants are going to go wide receiver, despite allowing the second most sacks in NFL history in a single season. And there's like multiple, road grading tackles that are interesting prospects, guys we like. And I'm sure, Matty, you have highly ranked. It seems like they want to add an offensive skill position player. So like, if like you could see a Odunze, go, at 6 to the Giants and immediately step into an incredibly high target share. He could go to the Chargers. There's so many good land. And then, if Marvin Harrison Jr. ends up being steamed up, you could see Odunze go to the Cardinals. So I think all 3 of these guys could get pushed up. It's really, really exciting for fantasy football, this draft.
Oh, yeah. It's going to get crazy. I don't really have a lot to say about Bowers. Obviously, he's just the unicorn at tight end in this class. We've been excited about him for years. Yak monster, very versatile player. So it's just an easy peasy pick here at 107. So Theo, you're up with the 108.
Just real quick, is like, is there any concern about landing spot for Bowers with you, Matt?
Well, it depends. No, probably not, because I think some of the spots that I could see him going that would be less enticing could create kind of a volume boost for him.
What about the Colts?
I'd be okay with the Colts. I would be okay with the Colts.
I saw Daniel Jeremiah had him to the Colts.
That's where he had him. He hadn't fallen that far. Yeah, to the Colts. I thought about that. I'd be okay with that. A mobile quarterback, a guy who would be essentially going into his rookie season after getting hurt early in his actual rookie season with Anthony Richardson. I'd be okay with it. Of course, there's a lot of projectability though in that take, because there's a lot of the proverbial pie has to come away from Michael Pittman in that Michael Pittman's a player I love. But I think that the connection would be there for a guy like Bowers and Richardson. That would be, though, Jeremy, one of my least favorite spots. So thanks for giving a little bit of a doomsday situation here, because that would probably want to be the
tight ends are always a doomsday. They always trick us. Always.
After last year, though, we have a little bit of
I know. The tight end market looks good. If you're playing Dynasty Fantasy Football, like right now, it might be the best tight ends I've ever been.
Oh, it's incredible. The Bowers, if Bowers lands in Indianapolis, that's not a good thing for Michael Pittman. That's just not a good thing for him in Dynasty.
It's really bad Bowers for my Josh Downs shares as well.
Oh, it's terrible for Josh Downs. Terrible. We don't want any of that. So
let's call it here, boys. He's not. Let's put it out in the universe. Indianapolis, look elsewhere. Do not take Brock Bowers.
Go defense. Trust me, you guys need help there.
Yes.
So 8
Cooper DeJean, get the guy from the team.
I'm 8 overall here, and I feel like this is like the tier break, and this is kind of like the flag plant time. I could go a number of directions. I think I could go with the running back spot and take my RB1 overall, or I could go back to the wide receiver and take one of these guys that I'm projecting to go in the first round. Matty, in a couple of these drafts, I've gone Troy Franklin, but I'm going to switch it up for this one. I think I'm going to go Brian Thomas, another LSU Tiger, big outside receiver, and I think that it's looking more and more likely. Like, I love Franklin, and I have Franklin higher ranked in my own personal rankings, but I'm just thinking that Brian Thomas can end up with we're projecting the 3 wide receivers to potentially go in the top 6. Thomas could be the guy that gets pulled up and get, incredible draft capital. So I love about 4 wide receivers here. But I'm gonna go Brian Thomas tonight. So changing it up a little bit here on Futurecast.
Little BT action for OG. I like it. Jeremy, you're up here with the 109.
Yeah, I like the Brian Thomas call. I think it was Bucky Irvings that I looked at today that had, or Bucky Brooks it was, that had him going to Cincinnati. You know, if T. Higgins leaves and they don't pay him, Brian Thomas is a real good fit for them there late. So I like that call, Theo, sneaking in kind of mid draft there. I'll go Troy Franklin then. Won't get too crazy. If Theo normally takes him at 8, well, I was at 9. I really like Troy Franklin. Did a lot of good stuff for the Ducks, set some single season records, receiving yards, touchdowns, stuff like that this past season. Now I want to see what he actually measures in at, but he is listed at 6'3", 178. So he's a little bit leaner. Doesn't necessarily use that physicality. He's not a sudden athlete, but he's a very smooth mover. Very similar to like that Jordan Addison is a guy I liked last year as well. I just like those smooth, silky type of route runners and good movers like that. Franklin is that. He doesn't necessarily run a ton or has been asked to do many, like I would say, complex routes is what I call them. A lot of stop stuff isn't really totally there, but he's got good speed, good acceleration, really has that gear to eliminate angles once the ball gets in his hands. So I think in the right spot, Franklin could be sneaky good here if you're getting him this late.
Low BMI superstar with the Addison, Devonta Smith, and now Troy Franklin. It's a good time to be a skinny wide receiver in the NFL in the process.
Jeremy, what's your nuts landing spot for Franklin? What's the best?
Honestly, let's be a little biased, right? Upstate New York, baby.
He would be such a good bill.
I would absolutely love him in Buffalo, to be honest.
Helmets.
Obviously Stephon Diggs, as we all saw last night, forgot how to catch footballs. But no, jokes aside, I think the Bills need a secondary receiver. I think he kind of fits a good mold. A field stretcher is really what they kind of need at this point. You can see Diggs is kind of either been injured or lost the step. So Franklin would give him that field stretcher role, kind of what Gabe Davis has done for the past few seasons if they don't bring him back. So I like that. And then they can go elsewhere somewhere.
Yeah, I love that. It's that Bills Chiefs bottom of the first round where I think he's insulated at. And it's one of those things where we'd love to see Troy Franklin go inside the top 20. But if he goes at the end of, it gets attached to Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes in the tail end of the first round, it would be an incredible landing spot for him. So yeah, I'm with you there. I would love to see him be a Buffalo Bill. I think he'd be fantastic there.
I also like him like at the early of the first, if Caleb Williams or Drake Maye or Jayden Daniels go like 1, 2, 3 there, so like New England, Washington, or to kind of pair them with one of those rookie quarterbacks would be nice.
Oh, that'd be an awesome outcome as well. Matty, your OTC here. And are you thinking, is this your time, Matty, in a super flex where you're going to be thinking about quarterback? Where do you think is the right pick? Maybe the right cutoff where, get a couple wide receivers selected. And then now you're looking at those quarterback 4 through 6.
So at this point, I'm kind of in a flat spot for my wide receiver ranks. My running back 1 is still on the board, but he's not an overwhelming running back 1 to the field. So yeah, right here at the 110, back into the first is where I'm going to be sniffing for my 4th QB off the board, and I'm going to choose Bo Nix. I think that Bo Nix has shown the poise, talent, and athleticism to play well at the next level. I think his landing spot is uber dependent or uber important, more so than others when it comes to fantasy, because I don't know if he is the type of player to elevate bad weapons, but I do think in a spot where there are some known commodities in the offensive side of the ball, he can thrive. We saw how accurate he was, both in completion percentage and adjusted completed percentage, over 4,400 passing yards, and then 45 touchdowns with 3 picks. I understand the offense was clicking on high cylinders. He had Troy Franklin, Tez Walker, others, but he's my favorite to be the 4th quarterback in my ranks. He is now, and I really think he could be that throughout. He's going to get a chance to compete directly against Penix in Mobile, which is great. And when I see him kind of coming off the board, but I'm looking at the NFL draft here, potentially as early as Minnesota at 11, or if they were to move back. Vegas, Seattle, probably the biggest long shot, but still they are looking for a quarterback is Pittsburgh at 20. All those teams have weapons. Would love it for Nick. So he's my fourth quarterback right now.
I like the pick, and I think you could consider, like, if Nix lands in the first round and goes to a spot that, Matty mentioned, then I think you start thinking about him after Brock Bowers, depending on the positional needs you get. But I like Nix. He's kind of like a what you see is what you get guy. Penix, for that matter, as well. Both those guys are 23-year-olds, whereas McCarthy is like 20. There's a lot of like big range of outcomes with him. But here at 11, I could go back to the QB well. There's a bunch of wide receivers I like, but I'm going to take my RB1. I'm going to take Brayan Allen. And I think this is exactly the kind of spot, right around that 1-2 turn in Superflex to start considering the RB1 in this class. Push comes to shove. This is probably a quarterback or wide receiver, but I'm flag planning Allen. I think he's going to get that draft capital. 19 years old. He'll be a 20-year-old rookie next year. He's a bell cow. And we all have him as our RB1. So let's go. I'm going to get Brayan Allen, RB1 overall off the board.
All right, Jimmy, you're here to
40 draft capital. I'm calling it.
I love it. And
38th. Take a look at who's 38th, and you'll know why. Anyways,
well, who's 38th?
I love it.
Jeremy?
I love it.
I don't have my draft order.
Yeah.
Let everybody know.
Don't leave us hanging.
Let everybody know. It's the second round.
Oh, you guys don't know? No. It's the Titans.
There you go.
Oh.
Replace Derrick Henry with Derrick Henry, right?
Yeah.
That would
different
be,
coaching staff now, so they might not. But I'm just saying.
It would be poetic.
It's poetic, right?
Poetic. Yeah, poetic.
I'm gonna actually go to the receiver well here. For me, my fourth quarterback doesn't. I have them in the second round at this point until we really get a true draft landing spot for me with Superflex. If it's a second round quarterback, I'm not taking him till the second round. And there's no guarantee we get that third one or fourth one, I should say, in the first round this year. So I want to see that before I'm really going to push them up. So this early in the process, I'm still into receivers, running backs here. I'm going to go Keon Coleman. I think there's a lot of upside here in Keon Coleman's game. Kind of that big, explosive type of athlete, 6'4", 210, big, physical, yards after the catch type of guy. Can kind of make plays in the screen game. Has the circus catches, strong hands, a very huge catch radius. Kind of can do it all. Really one of those intact type of players. I do think that he could even be a potential for the Bengals to replace T. Higgins. So I really like him. I think he could sneak into the back half of the first round. I've seen him mocked even to Tampa Bay, somewhere in there in that later half of the first round. I think he could sneak in just because of the immense upside. Is he totally refined? No. And polished? By no means. But I think we've seen it plenty of times. The NFL likes to swing on these type of raw athletic prospects, and that's Keon Coleman. So
yeah, the size, the youth. Matty Kiwoom, that's Matty's fade. But I've ranked him 8th overall in my single QB rankings. I think this is a good range to take him in. And I think the NFL teams will end up taking him in the first round. I've seen the criticisms where, you bring up raw. Some people think he can't separate. But at the end of the day, I think NFL teams are going to believe in him. Matty, your Keon Coleman fade summarized in a short little description.
I just wonder why a guy this big and this much of a physical specimen is lacking in yards per out run, yards after catch, and contested catch rate. But I have always left the door open because he is that physical specimen. If the numbers are out of control and the draft capital's there, he will shoot up kind of that muck of wide receivers. But as of now, he's kind of at the bottom end of that whole, call it most people's rankings, 5 through 10 or so.
Jeremy, we're snaking it tonight, so you're back OTC.
Oh, snake! Oh gosh, no.
Are we?
Do you want to? You don't want to snake it, Matty?
I didn't snake it, so I don't want to cause. I don't want to throw him. I don't know. Hit him with a surprise Aruski, baby.
Oh, I apologize. We're back to Matty Kiwoom then, right here at the 201.
So I'm actually going to go back to the wide receiver. Well, I'm going to take Xavier Worthy. It's just really the speed. I've seen the speed translate before. I've seen the speed make players rise up draft boards. I'm just really going to buy into the speed here, the first pick in the second round.
I like Worthy a lot. I've seen a lot of negative on the Twitter sphere. I've been posting a lot of his highlights. I'm actually working on a scouting report now because I was rolling through Texas, and I still like him a lot. good hands catcher, doesn't overly separate, like explode. He's not as like twitchy as you would expect for a little bit undersized guy, but again, kind of like my MO that I really like. He's very fluid, and like you said, the speed, that transition from a stop to go is really quick as well from Xavier Worthy. So a lot to like, I still think, with him.
I'll keep it easy here. I could go back to the quarterback well here and take one of the two guys I think make a ton of sense here at the beginning of the second round. But I'm going to stay in Texas, and I'm going to go Adonai Mitchell. I'm going to take another Texas Longhorns wide receiver, another outside wide receiver. He's got that dog in him. This is the kind of guy that I think is going to get top 40 draft capital. I think he could potentially land very well. He's a touchdown scorer. He had 10 touchdowns last year, first year on Texas. And I think that NFL teams are going to like him a lot. I think he's a 4-5 guy, but he's got the size and he's got the ability to win on the outside. I'm excited about Adonai Mitchell, especially if I'm getting him here in the second round.
So I'm just going to toss this out here. Since Matty brought it up with Keon Coleman, do you know who has the least amount of yards per route run in the 2024 draft class of these names that we've had selected so far?
Adonai Mitchell.
Yep. He's pretty bad. I have, as far as that stat goes, I wouldn't say he's bad. I think he's a decent receiver. But he's below Keon Coleman, Xavier Legette. Yeah, it's not looking great for him as far as that stat goes, but just throwing it out there, little nugget.
Oh yeah, no, I saw that one before, and I do think that there's something to be said for. I do think there's something to be said for Mitchell being in his first year in Texas. I wonder how his career would look if he would have had his whole career there in a more wide receiver focused offense. But again, the other thing about Adonai Mitchell is he comes into Texas, he scores more touchdowns than Worthy and Jatavian Sanders, and we see Jatavian Sanders numbers take a dip because of the presence of Adonai Mitchell. So he's a dude. The guy's a dude.
Yeah,
and he's going to get the draft capital.
I have him really. I'm like, my favorite comp for him right now is Nico Collins. Like, I really think that those two are very similar players, kind of like not explosive, not necessarily not explosive, but like they're not going to run away from you, but they do enough to separate. And even when they're covered, they're pretty much open. So I do agree, Theo, kind of with that. This is where one of those yards per route run stats you can see gets skewed because he was in Georgia for so long and he was one of their primary receivers. So he's always out there running a route, but Brock Bowers was like their passing offense for so long. Now he comes to Texas and he's got to split it with 3 to 4 guys. Even that Jordan Whittington was pretty good as well. So like they had like 3-4 guys in this passing game and then add in Jordan Brooks. So that's where you got to kind of take some of these stats with a grain of salt. So that's kind of what I wanted to bring it up. I don't think he's bad, but this is where you can get in trouble when you're really just looking at stats because he doesn't jump off the screen when it comes to that. It's the same thing that we mentioned earlier with Brayan Allen. So
that's right.
But let's see, what were you at? 2-3, right?
Yep.
You got the 2-3 pick here, Jeremy. Let's see what you got.
So I'm kind of in between here, and I'm just going to get away from Texas so we can just not talk about the Longhorns anymore. But we'll go back to Florida State. I'm going to go Trey Benson here. I think that after, even honestly, all of these guys here, the top, I've got 5 that are very similar. But Benson has a little bit more size at 6'1", 215. As long as he comes in at that weight, I still really like him a lot. Good speed. I think he improved his vision and patience this year in 2023. That was a big knock for me in 2022. Just felt like he was overrunning stuff. This year it looked a little bit better, a little slower as far as before he turned on the jets. Still has that speed and breakaway type of running ability. So I still like Trey Benson here, just a little bit bigger than your guys of like the Blake Corums or Bucky Irvings. Yeah. I also really like Jonathan Brooks as well here, but we'll get away from Texas for a bit.
I had Trey Benson as my RB3. I dropped my RB rankings on Player Profiler today, and he hit 22 miles an hour in a game. So I think that 40, like the speed numbers for Benson are really going to be eye-popping, especially when you consider his size. So we're trying to project draft capital on a lot of these running backs, Matty, unless there's something weird with like the previous injury he had at Oregon, and he doesn't get a clean bill of health, then I think this is a guy that we can safely put on day 2. Would you agree with that assessment?
Yeah, I would think so. Right now, he's my running back 2.
Yeah.
And then I have Jonathan Brooks, my running back 3. So This is why podcasting can be beautiful. We have a guy with a Vince Wilfork Patriots jersey and a gentleman with a bunch of Bills jerseys. I think essentially becoming podcast best friends because it seems like a lot of our rankings are aligning here, Jeremy. So yeah, I
those three do. So yeah, we're good. We're good so far.
It's like a step brothers.
Step brothers. You want to go do karate in the garage?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So does that make me like the dad on Step
That
Brothers?
makes you Derek.
It makes me Derek.
Yeah, you can be Derek.
Yeah,
Derek.
Thank you.
You're
guys.
driving on the way in the car.
I don't have to feel old. Oh, absolutely. We could break out in song. Catalina Wine Festival. I got to make my nut, guys. Matty Kiwoom, you got to make your nut here at the 204, so to speak.
So I'm just gonna go. This is a bit of a projectability pick for me, but I'm gonna take Xavier Leggett. He's old. He didn't pop till 2023. But when I watch him, my brain, as silly as it might be, intrusive thoughts, I just can't stop saying to myself, that's DK. That's DK Metcalf. That's freaking DK Metcalf. And I just can't stop thinking that when I watch him play. So here at the 204, I'm taking a lottery ticket on another DK type body type.
Yeah, the only criticism on Xavier is the fact that he's old and the fact that he broke out late. But then you factor in he was a quarterback in high school. So he loses a little bit of development there. So I don't know. He's a like a polarizing guy right now because if I told you he was 21 years old and he did this as a junior, everybody would like steam him into the first. So it's a funny thing with Legit right now. I'm OTC here, guys. I think it's time. I'm gonna go ahead and take JJ McCarthy here at the 205. This makes sense. I think that's if the problem with McCarthy is I don't see him. There's a lot of problems with McCarthy, to be real. I wish he would have gone back to Michigan, but I think NFL teams are going to like him enough that somebody's going to take him in the first round. The problem being, I don't think he starts ideal. It's a real mess if he gets starts in his rookie year. I think this is the kind of guy you want to sit on and kind of maybe get a couple starts towards the end of the season if the team's bad. But he needs development, and he'll only be a 21-year-old rookie. We saw Anthony Richardson start at 21. This is a different guy. This is not that. So, but here, getting a potential starter, guy starts in year 2 and will get first round draft capital. I'm okay taking him in my Superflex draft, but it's really more of a value thing than, hey, I love the player.
I'd really like him in New Orleans. Unfortunately,
that's a good
stuck
spot.
With their car for another year, but I think that would be a good fit in that offense once Carr moves on. You still got Chris Olave there coming up. They could get another receiver next year before he comes in. I like that spot. Just seems like a good spot for McCarthy. Either that or he's going to go where Harbaugh goes if he goes to a spot that needs a quarterback.
Harbaugh says he's the greatest quarterback in Michigan history and talks him up. So let's see, put your money where your mouth is, Harbaugh, and draft the kid.
He'll just be smart. He'll go to the Chargers or something. So he's like, yeah, I got
I don't have to do it.
Yeah, right. What are you going to do? Yeah, I can't take him. But he could stay in LA. I'd love to see him go 20 to the Rams. Have McVay, be under
Rams
McVay's
is nice
for
too.
a year. Matthew Stafford for a year. That'd be nice. And I think that's kind of baked in. The insurance is a little baked in there, Theo, at 205. So, Jeremy, now you're up 206.
I'm gonna skip off my rankings a little bit because we took too many quarterbacks, and it may be Penix here if he gets a good spot, but I'm gonna go running back again. I think this is the sweet spot for running backs. I think that mid to early second, depending on how many draft capital we get. But I'm gonna go Blake Corum here. He's a little bit, he's undersized as far as height goes at 5'8", but he's stout. He's got 210 pushing behind him. You watch him play, really good vision, explosive, powerful still type of runner. He's not necessarily going to run you over, but if he gets behind you with the leverage in his pads and leg drive, he's going to push you over. An absurd amount of touchdowns. I got I don't have it actually.
20. It was 27.
27 this year, but when you look at him
last 3
historically,
years,
he has 50. I think he has 58 or 59, and then he has 58 receptions. He has an absurd amount of touchdowns. Nose for the end zone. So I'll take him here. I know it's a little undersized, but I think he's going to get good draft capital. Kind of fits that mold of the NFL where they're going a little bit smaller, quicker. The Devon A. Chains, the James Cooks, those guys that are a little undersized. So I'll go that route with him here. I think it's baked in, like you said, a little bit mid-second. At this point, you're throwing darts most times. So
I put him at 7 overall in my single QB rankings, and a lot of pushback on that. People didn't like it, but I think at the end of the day, this is a guy that's going to return many seasons of RB2 production. He's got that nice frame. And Matty, you've talked about like how he's a high character guy, mega producer at Michigan, and he's going to have draft capital. NFL teams are going to like him.
They're going to love Corum.
We had a really fun Futurecast with Ian Miller of the 33rd team. We did basically the same thing we're doing with Jeremy, except we did it in single QB. And we talked a lot about Corum. It was an interesting one. But yeah, I love that pick right there, Jeremy. That's how you like really, really build up your dynasty roster. And I'm already regretting taking JJ McCarthy over Blake Corum. It's like, Theo, turn on a Michigan game, bro.
Right. Yeah, I took the true quarterback of the Michigan offense.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So I'm up here with the 207. There's two Longhorns that are kind of calling at being picked. But I'm agreeing with Jeremy. I think that this is the running back sweet spot. And I'm going to go with Jonathan Brooks. I'm not going to lie to you guys. So far, I'm putting a lot of trust in that what do they call it? I'm going to draw a blank here. The NCAA, the consultants that allow these players to talk to before making their decision whether they go to the NFL or not. I'm putting a lot of eggs in that basket with Brayan Allen, JJ McCarthy, and Jonathan Brooks. If he did not get good news from the potential of his draft capital, I don't think he comes back. I don't think he comes out. So I'm going to go Jonathan Brooks here in hopes that he's a third round pick. But here at 207, I'm okay with it.
And just a mental exercise.
Totally
guy.
Forgot.
If he never
I would have taken him.
If he never,
I would have taken Blake Corum. So baby.
If he never would have gotten hurt, the trajectory he was on this season, he would have gone at the 108 in this draft, and he would have been the RB1 off the board.
I mean, you turn on his games. Like some of the stuff he does is really. At first, I was a little bit of a Jonathan Brooks hater early in the season. I'm like, yeah, he's doing well. It's Texas, but you really turn it on. This kid's electric. As long as he doesn't lose too much of it from the injury, this is going to be a real good value in drafts, depending on what he gets for draft capital and where he lands. Brooks is a guy I really like.
Yeah, and this one, that's a really, really good value. Right here, guy, Matty, I could go a million ways here at the 208.
There's
a bunch of guys that I like.
A million ways.
There's several running backs I really, really like, but I think that I'm going to go with Jatavian Sanders. And I think at the end of the day, Jatavian Sanders has a chance to sneak into the first round. He's the clear tight end 2 in this draft. He had the most tight end receptions in Texas history as a sophomore. This is a guy that is like a plug and play. If there was no Brock Bowers, I think there would be a little more enthusiasm for Sanders right now. So I'm happy to get him. Also a young player. I believe he's 20 years old. He'll be 21-year-old rookie. Early breakout of Texas. Checks off a ton of boxes. So I'm Jatavian Sanders here, and I'm happy about this pick.
Okay, Jatavian, you know how I feel about Jatavian's OG. I love me some Sanders this year. So Jeremy, you're up with the 209.
Love Jatavian Sanders as well. I think he's gonna be like Jonnu Smith. But what we were hoping Jonnu Smith was going to be,
People forgot the prospect profile that he carried coming into college. Like, he was that dude going to Texas.
Yeah. I'll take the running backs. I still think we got a well here. And obviously it's going to be draft capital. If like all these guys go, 5th, 6th round, obviously see you later. But I'm going to go Bucky Irving. Again, a little bit of that undersized mold, but he does have 5'10", 194 is what he's listed at Oregon. This guy's another guy you got to turn the tape on, man. Much like Blake Corum, explosive, good vision, really good catcher of the football. Just a lot to like out of Bucky Irving. I really think with the direction the NFL's going, you're seeing it with the James Cooks, the Devon A. Chains. Rachaad White was a little bigger, but you're looking at that pass catching dual threat type of ability, the speed to get to the edge, a little bit more of the zone type of blocking schemes at the NFL level. And I think Bucky Irving fits really well into that mold. So given a good landing spot, I think that we could see him have a real good potential here to boom this late in the second.
I love Bucky Irving. I mean, I think Bucky Irving, I really want to get a ton of Bucky Irving and a ton of Audric Estime. And in this range, I think you get exposure to both. Matty, I would take Estime in 2 picks, but we have a little bit of a rule here at Futurecast.
Yes.
You like to mix it up with our final three.
Yeah, with the last three, they call them the green picks, the green zone. We're going to go with stuff that's off the board, not people that we expect to be second-round picks. They might be third or even fourth-round picks, but just guys that we want to put in the radars of our listeners. Just put this guy in the back burner to follow him through the process, and maybe he surprises you. And I've gone a few different ways. This week, my sleeper pick, I'm going to go with Malik Washington, a wide receiver from Virginia. I haven't dug too deep. They have a lot more left to dig on Washington, but there's just every time I've checked him out so far, I've liked what I've seen. He's small. Don't get me wrong, 5'8". He's listed at 194 pounds. That would make him a bowling ball. If that were true, I would expect him to be a little bit lighter when he gets some official. Actually, is he in the Senior Bowl? I'm gonna have to look that out. He might be in the Senior Bowl. So
I think he is in the Senior Bowl. Yep.
So I'll have to see what their measurables. I'll check that out here. But we're talking about a kid that was at Northwestern, who doesn't throw the ball. If you remember, Northwestern was part of a game that had the lowest projected point total against Iowa in the history of of college football. So that's not a good offense. He goes to Virginia this year, and he gets 1,300 receiving yards. He pops in a number of metrics, has over 100 receptions. I'm excited to see what this kid can do throughout the process, because we've mentioned it at the top of the show, talking about Jacob Cowing. The difference between Cowing and Tank Dell was the difference of production in their final year of college, where Malik Washington does have that final year of production. So I got to get a little bit more.
Caught a few passes, didn't he, Matty?
Caught a few passes, 111 of them. That's a lot. So there's a lot to dig into. I want to get more in depth in his ability to run routes and how he wins on the field. But man, that production is hard to ignore. So I want to put him on the radar of our listeners here.
I love it. And, I'm not a huge fan, but again, we're going to find out a lot about him. And, we had a Dontavian Wicks, a UVA wide receiver last year. He gets drafted on day 3 and was way, way better than people thought. So maybe this is going to end up being a place where guys get drafted on day 3 and end up, producing the league. So we'll find out a lot about Malik Washington in the process. And just to make Matty's life hard, last time I threw out 2 players for my sleeper, I'm going to do it again. I'm gonna throw out Theo Johnson, because I'm trying to flag plant a tight end 3 in this class, and I think it's difficult right now to kind of sift through. There's a number of guys could get there, but Theo Johnson's going to be at the Senior Bowl. This is a guy who had 7 touchdown catches for Penn State this year. He's a mega athlete in the fact that, like, his test numbers I think are going to be fantastic, because he's reportedly runs somewhere between a 4.5 and a 4.55, but he's every bit 6'5", 260. And I think this is the kind of guy that could make a name for himself in Mobile. And then I'll throw out a throwback name, because Matty talked about him. Matty talked about him a while back here on Futurecast. Maybe this is like 2 months ago. But Dylan Lobb. Dylan Lobb is my RB10 in this class. A guy I'm super excited about to see how he does in Mobile. This is a Matty Kiwoom guy, a Cody Carpenter guy, but he's from Long Island, where I live. We don't have enough, Long Island guys in the NFL as well. And I think Dylan Lobb, like, some of the receiving numbers are just stupid. If you look at his stats this year, the Central Michigan game, his only game against FCS competition, he went insane. It was like 12 catches, went over 200 yards receiving. And he had a couple other games where he was like double-digit receptions, and he led FCS in all-purpose yardage as a junior. So we'll see. I mean, if he has a bad week in Mobile, there's going to be no steam. But I think he can make a big name for himself. We'll see where it goes.
Love it. I love it. So, Jeremy, you're up here. Who's your sleeper? Who's someone that the people tuning in tonight is going to leave being, oh, I didn't know about this guy?
So he's gotten some steam on Twitter, but Jamari Thrash out of Louisville, he will be at the Senior Bowl as well, so we'll see something from him there. 6'1", 185, not overly big, but again, he's kind of one of those little bit twitchier type of athletes. He is tied for 5th with the Devontae Walker and Johnny Wilson at 2.52 yards per route run in 5 seasons. So again, that's kind of a good stat. I would almost say the longer you're in collegiate football, sometimes those numbers can fall down a little bit because obviously you're out there a little bit longer. So I do like that from him. Kind of an explosive athlete, can stretch the field. decent route runner, good hands, has over 26,000 receiving yards in his collegiate career, 18 touchdowns. So a lot to like from Thrash. I still really had to dive deep into him, kind of like you had said with yours, but I do like him. There's some borderline. I kind of want to see what he looks like at the Senior Bowl, and we'll go from there. But I really think that that's a name that you kind of gotta keep an eye on. He just isn't really getting named. He's like in that category with the Lad McConkeys, the Walkers, these guys that are getting talked about when you're looking at the yards per route run stats. So I think he could be in there. He could be sneaky, kind of in that Roman Wilson type of. They're kind of similar athletes. So
we have all these guys that are like these transfer wide receivers, where I think like the process of like looking at these guys. We've tonight's show, we talked about Cowan, Coleman, Adonai Mitchell. Matty just talked about Malik Washington. Jamari Thrash was at, I think, Georgia State or something like that before Louisville. Like, there's so many of these guys. You have to like factor in, less time with these programs and all this kind of stuff. It's a very cool and new thing here in the process. Tez Walker is steaming up. He could have easily been in our 2-round draft tonight. And he started out in like the MAC. Ended up at UNC. So definitely a cool thing. But Jeremy, this was awesome tonight. Remind everybody about the work you're putting out at FTN and what you have coming out over the next couple weeks.
Yeah, for sure. I appreciate being on, first of all. But yeah, as far as work goes, a ton of Dynasty stuff. I'm actually going to be pushing out this coming week some Senior Bowl previews, kind of just brief talks about like top 5 of each position, and then just a list of kind of a little bit of blurbs on some of the guys after those top 5, that at least my top 5 that I want to talk about. It's not really rankings, just kind of 5 guys, like you'd said here in these last 3 picks. Just like 5 guys put names on the radar. Some of them are the better guys, some are a little bit less. But I'm going to have that coming out this week. And then just some Dynasty stuff in general. Have the FTN Dynasty podcast. Definitely head on over there. It's on pretty much every single broadcast network out there. You can just listen to me and my dull voice talking to a microphone for a bit. But yeah, some good stuff. They're quick episodes, so good listen. I'm going to have Adam Pfeiffer on as well from FTN. I think coming up here, we're going to run through, like we did last year, some prospect episodes, which were really great stuff. So I have all that stuff. And then obviously the scouting reports that are over at FTN. I have all those links on my Twitter at PopesFFH. Pretty much link all my work. So makes it easy. Follow me there.
Yeah. Check
it
out.
highly recommend Jeremy's work. Definitely check it out. Definitely smash the like, subscribe to Player Profiler YouTube here. We're going to be coming out with shows like this all off season, getting you ready for your Dynasty rookie drafts, getting ready for your Dynasty off season. Matty Kiwoom, are you dropping a blue chips this week?
Oh yeah, we're going to be talking about the offensive side of the football for the Senior Bowl, baby.
I love it. Maybe going to talk a little bit about Theo Johnson, since you just spent so much time with Theo Gremminger. And check out, guys, Sonic Truth. Sonic Truth is dropping Thursday. Alan Soslowski is on his sabbatical he takes this time of year. So Andrew Cooper is going to be joining the Podfather and I. We're going to talk a little bit of Dynasty, and then Dynasty Life on Wednesday right here on Player Profiler YouTube. I have Jax Falcone. We're going to be talking about this 2024 class, and we're going to be comparing it to the 2023 class. Stick with us all offseason long here at Futurecast and at Player Profiler, and enjoy the rest of your week.
Later, guys. Peace.
Hey, I want to take a moment to thank you for tuning in. It's important to me that all of our media be free. This is only possible because of you allowing a true independent sports media enterprise to thrive unlike any other in the business. So please subscribe to the All In Package to continue to make all of this possible, to ensure that all of our stats, information, data, content is available to you, especially you, the people that get the site and get the show.